Live from our Lakeview studio in the Windy City, welcome to the Chicago Python lunch break. My name is Ali Sivji. I'm one of the organizers of Chicago Python, and I'm going to be your host for this afternoon's event. Let me just share my screen and we'll get started. Hide that, and now we're good. All right, so before we do start, I do want to make everybody aware of our code of conduct. There's more information on our website. Just to summarize it as best as I can in a couple sentences, treat people the way you would like to be treated. Anytime you're interacting in a chippy space, you have to abide by the rules of our code of conduct. Chicago Python Users Group is a Python-focused community that was founded back in 2003. We're one of the original Python user groups in the world. We've grown from meetings in small conference rooms in the back of a bar to being one of the largest Python communities in the world. We have over 6,000 members. In addition to our monthly meeting that happens on the second Thursday of every month, we have special interest groups that focus in on more niche areas of Python. We have a finance SIG. Chicago is one of the world's finance hubs, so it makes sense that we have one of those. There's one for data. We had one last night, looking to do one again soon. There's also one for web dev / DevOps. And we also have a monthly special interest group focused in on algorithms and data structures. If you're looking to get better at those HackerRank or leak code problems that they seem to always use, unfortunately, in interviews, it's a really good place to go ahead and do that. We have some upcoming events, just do some housekeeping off the bat. November 5th is going to be our next Algo SIG. We have a main meeting on November 12th. Our next Python lunch break is going to be November 19th. And I just got the speaker confirmation. It's going to be about creating a portable PyPI server. And tentatively, we're going to be doing our Python project night on November 19th. We're trying to figure out the best way to do project night. We had a really great format for doing it in person, where teams to form mob program on a project together. We're trying to find a best way to move that to a virtual type of environment. We did something in Zoom last month. It went pretty well, looking to improve and iterate going forward. So what's going on in the world? Since this is an async event, I thought it's worth mentioning that Node 15 was released a couple of days ago. Longtime viewers know I have an affinity for JavaScript. I do prefer to use Python in the back end, but I also think Node is a fantastic framework. Looking through what they added, seems like there's a few small improvements, a couple of new features, one's experimental. Nothing really sticks out. This is not an LTS release, so if you are using Node for production, make sure you start your projects with Node 14. PyTexas is also happening this weekend. It is usually held in Austin. It's previously been held in Dallas, but this time they are moving online and to YouTube. So check them out. Talks are happening on Saturday and on Sunday, starting around, I believe, 9 or 10 a.m. Chicago time. More information is on their website. Where can you interact with Chippy outside of this event? Check out our Slack. We have over 2,000 people talking about Python, talking about some other things. Check out our channel, Pets of Chippy. It's a lot of fun, especially in these times, as they like to say. If you're on Twitter, we're also on Twitter. Check us out at Chicago Python. All this information, plus a lot more, is available on our website, which is chippy or chipy.org. Today we have a fantastic talk by Cheuk Ting Ho called Don't Be Afraid of Async. She's going to be showing us how to automate mundane tasks on Discord. Really looking forward to that. Before we start with the interview, I do want to make everybody aware of the Q&A section, or I should say a chat box where you can perform Q&A. It's going to be on my right side. I'm going to say that's right. If you have questions for the speaker, please ask them there. And if you just want to interact in that space, make sure you're following the rules of our code of conduct. All right, so that's it for me. I'm going to bring Cheuk onto our stream. Welcome, Cheuk. How's it going?
Hey, hello, I'm good.
Oh, where are you calling in from?
Oh, I'm calling in from London.
Uh, I love doing these daytime events because we can have people from across the pond. Can you please introduce yourself to our Chicago Python audience?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Cheuk. I work as the developer advocate for TerminusDB. So I'm based in London, and I also organize a lot of events for different communities. I in the board of EuroPython this year, and so it'll be EuroPython next year. And also I organize some conferences, including Pyjamas, which is happening in December. It was an online event, and it will still be an online event. Also PyData Global is happening in November, so first time online. Yeah. So
Awesome.
I would tell you more about that if you want to, but yeah.
Yeah, I think we can have some time after your talk to sort of just point people to these conferences. We'll also be posting links in the chat and the comment section below. Can you talk a little bit about how you first got into Python?
Yeah, so actually before I become a developer advocate, I was a data scientist. So I wanted to become a data scientist because I moved to UK and I want to start a new career. So from my academic background, I think, from people that I met and then my friends suggested that I could give that a try. So I didn't just like jump into it. I did some online courses, but at that time I was using R, which I would say that I never look back now, like, but I was using R, but luckily I got a job in a company, but the whole team is using Python, so they're really really great. They don't mind that I was using R only at the time, so I start converting to Python, and I never look back. Like, Python is just so much easier. I think especially when you step into a more low level thing, I would say, like when you're writing, your own package, your own library in R is just like, for me, it's mission impossible. But in Python, it's just so much neat and easy, and you got a lot of help from the community as well. So so I think that my Python journey started there, and it has been very good.
Awesome. Yeah, it's like I love the syntax of Python. It's just very clean. Anytime like try to learn a new concept, always best to learn it in the cleanest language, which I believe would be Python, well, at least for me. So we are sort of still dealing with the effects of sheltering in place. In Chicago, we've been able to start eating at restaurants. They do have indoor service, but most people are trying to stay outside as much as they can, try to keep safe. But we've also been having to deal with the effects of socially distancing. And especially as a developer advocate, somebody that goes to a lot of conferences, how have you been dealing with the effects of COVID-19 and the pandemic?
Yeah, so I think it's just like everything else. We just have to do it online instead of in person. Because, well, I would say that London, the situation is not very nice. Because, we had a lockdown, and now we are thinking about another one. And, even like when we go out to have dinner with friends, we have to be super conscious. So, so it's almost impossible that like company won't invite people to have a meetup there, So also travel is like, is kind of to a minimum kind of travel you're advised to. So so we just do things online. We just go to look for online solutions, like providing content, doing streaming, doing online workshops. We did some sprints online as well, which is surprisingly good. Also conferences are moving online, so it's like today I'm calling in from London. I don't have to be physically in some places to be giving talks. So I think the only place that still have physical conference is Taiwan this year. I mean, since the pandemic. So so hopefully next year. I think next year is still a challenge because no one knows what the situation will be. But hopefully we will have like in-person events back at some point, because I miss seeing people in person, chatting and having fun. So yeah.
Awesome. And I think you did mention that you were streaming, so we'll also include a link if people want to watch Cheuk's stream.
Yeah, I do have that in my slides, so you will
Okay,
have it.
perfect. Awesome. Okay, so are you ready to start your talk?
I can, yeah.
Cool. Please take it away.
Yeah, sure. So this talk is brand new, first of all, because you know that I give talks a lot of the times throughout the year, and sometimes I would give the talk more than once. But this is a new talk, so if it's not very polished, please excuse me. And if you have any recommendation that I could, improve this talk, feel free to let me know. But what I want to tell you today is that don't be afraid of async, because for me, I am kind of like around the fifth year of my Python journey. In the first few years, I've heard about async all the time during conferences, and there are some talks, it's about async. So I try to learn a little bit because it sounds really, really cool. I try to go to some of the talks, but I still don't get the idea. I don't know like what people are talking about, because some talks are not for beginners. So they assume that you know. So yeah. So until this year, that when I write a Discord bot for your Python, then I start to get some kind of feeling of async. So I will tell you my journey and also what I discover. It's basically for people who don't know about async. But if you are more familiar with async, you could actually let me know, like, because I have some questions that I prepare for people, kind of provoke some kind of thoughts. So hopefully you will enjoy the ride. So here are my, contact information, my website, my social media. So feel free to drop me a message on Twitter. I would try to read them. And I'm Cheuk, and like I said, I love open source. I work for TerminusDB right now, which is a open source graph database. So if you're a data scientist and a Pythonista, and if you're interested in data technology, you don't have to be a data scientist. And if you're interested in graph database, you can talk to me afterwards. Other thing, I also organize lots of events. Like I said, I love organizing sprints. We have tried some online sprints this year. Your Python is, it was online this year. It will going to be some kind of it won't be in Dublin actually next year. We have announced that it will be a special edition again, but but it will be great. We have some new ideas. There will be PyData Global happening in November, which is the first time that we have a PyData conference online. So please get excited. And also I organize a kind of an online conference that is called Pyjamas. That the idea is that you would be wearing your pajamas, sitting at home, sipping your chocolate and joining the conference. And also I stream on Twitch. This is my my Twitch link. I did stream a lot, like I think at the maximum point I stream like 4 times per week, but now I've tuned it down a little bit because the conference schedule is just getting too busy recently. But things may change. I still stream every Sunday. Most of the time for some Python tutorials or things that I learn in Python. But I'm now trying to have a more flexible schedule. But if you subscribe to me and click the notification, then when I go online, then you will see me. Yeah. So so about the talk, like, what is Discord? So I know that Discord, it may not be familiar for people in tech. Some of you may be familiar with it. Because you may also be a gamer, which I am. And if you're a gamer, then you know Discord very well. It's mainly used by gamer. It is a chat platform, just like Slack, that you can chat with people that you invited to the same server. So yes, server is kind of like a Slack workspace, so you can invite people to join. Actually, fun fact, my company now is using Discord as our internal chat platform. So we have ditched Slack. The reason being, since the pandemic, we found that Discord, you can use it kind of like a conferencing tool, just like Zoom. So we would have time that we want to do some pairing, pair programming. We want to do some like kind of small discussion that may not be something as formal as a Zoom meeting that you have to schedule in advance and things like that. So we may just be like, oh, we found a bug. We have to grab, this person and that person. We need to have a chat about how to fix that. Then you can just hop into a room in, a voice channel in Discord. So so that's why we switched to Discord. And also because of, people also discovered that. So EuroPython use Discord as well. So that's why this Discord board came into the picture, and why I write a board for Discord. So first of all, Discord is a gamers tool, but I think there's quite a large overlapping of developers and gamers. So Discord provides this API, which is an amazing API, to be honest, because it's so easy to use. It's basically, if you look at the documentation, which I put the link there, but you can find it for easily online, that you can basically do everything from controlling some admin stuff, like controlling what permission members could do, because Discord gives you a lot of moderation. You can silence member, you can do a lot of things, get some delay on members, so because they have been spamming, or you could invite give different roles to members, which they will have different permissions. So there's a lot of things that you could do with the Discord API. So they will be like so that you can build a moderation board. So if you're an NLP expert, you can build a moderation board yourself to check whether someone's misbehaving, or but not just that, right? Because like I've talked about that you could have a voice voice call in Discord. So also in the API you can also control that. So your moderation board could also monitor speech. If you are a really an NLP expert, that you can do some speech to text as well, then well, do it. And also other things, like you can control emojis and other stuff. You can change the name of the member. There's so many stuff that you could do with Discord. And also there's one thing that you can write games. So there's as a typo there, I just realized. So it's like I meant to say like, or even games. That's like you can build a game. You can build a poll link for your member, but also you can build a game, because like it provides those interface that you could use. So all your user could if they could reply to a poll, then of course you can build a game from it. And I haven't never done that game thing, but if you want to write a game, you can check out the documentation and see what you can do with the Discord API. But what's make it better is that we have discord.py. So this is a Python library that you could pip install. There's a developing team there. I don't know the developers in person, but they do have a server for discord.py, which you could chat with other users of discord.py. Also, I think the developers of discord.py is also hanging out there. So yeah, this is the 101 for me for async. Actually, I like I said, I was a bit scared of async before. I tried to learn it, but it's difficult to learn it to if you just go to talks and because people assume that you already know something. So yeah, when I try to build a board, right? Build a board in Python on Discord, and that there's a Discord.py which lets you skip using the API directly, which it's not easy, right? Writing all those like JSON things, like nobody like that. You want to have something that you can program. So Python, I'm a Python lister like you yourself. So I was like, okay, Discord.py, that's great. So I try to use it, but it uses async. So I have to use async, even though like you don't have to know a lot of async to use it, but because you're writing in a style of async, so there's a lot of things that you can't avoid. You may have to look up, okay, something very simple that you did normally in a sync code, how can I do it in async code? And also it kind of drive me to look into, okay, what actually is async, like why we have that, like, and what is going on. So I will tell you a little bit about that as well. Again, this is kind of a beginner's 101 for async. So the JSON is horrible to write. I'm a bit scared because like when I look at that kind of dictionary-ish kind of thing. I was like, oh my god, like scroll. Nobody loves it, right? So yeah. Discord.py, just as a kind of a warning that there's actually 2 versions of Discord.py, because sometime before I even know Discord.py, they did a big rewrite. So if you sometimes Google something that they may use the old syntax that's before version 1.0, then don't look at that tutorial or don't look at that answer. Make sure that when you look for, how to do this, we all do that on Stack Overflow. Make sure you look for the answer that is for, if you're like me using the new version, make sure you look for the new version of Discord.py. So yeah, so that's a heads up. And before I moved on, I would like to show you a little bit of the code, because actually I was planning to do a demo, but I realized that because I've changed the board, and then it has been used for a different purpose for my other events, because I'm running some beginners data science workshop, and we also use Discord. So I've changed the board to serve another purpose. I still have the code, but I don't know how much I can show you like in action, but I can still walk you through the code, and I will also show you a little bit of how it was like in your Python in case you wasn't there. But I can't show you too much because I can't show you the admin interface because there's too much personal information there. But I'll show you something that is public that you could see. So let me go there. So I have. So okay, so this is my Discord. I've opened it on a browser. Discord, you can use it. There's an app that you can use it on your desktop. You can use it on your phone, but it could also work on your browser. So this is my browser, and I'm in the EuroPython group server. So this actually we have archived this server, so it doesn't, there's no conversation there anymore. It's just an archive for people if they want to check back their very interesting conversation during your Python. So you can see that now not many people are online, so I'm there online, but also the bot is still online. Okay, the bot is still running because we run it on a cloud service that is still running. I didn't know. I didn't do the admin on that cloud, but well, yeah, good for us then. So you can see that in this. This is our channel for registration. So when people come in, what they do here, for example, I hope you can see that people need to type in ! register. That will trigger the bot, and then they have to type in the full name, comma, and then the ticket number. So this is a very simple bot because this was my first bot, but it kind of serves it well. So if someone got registered, we will show some emoji there, and that people will be send a message to welcome them and things like that. Yeah, if they have problems, they can always ask a human to fix it for them. But the problem is that there was I think we saw more than 7,000 tickets in EuroPython, and at the beginning we was a bit scared that what if everybody need to register at the same time? There's no way we could do it like manually. So having a board kind of help us a little bit. And so a lot of the time people can just register themselves without problem. So I really like that. So it kind of I would say that it's a success. Yeah. So okay, go back to the code. So I open it on a Jupyter notebook. So because for me presenting, like in a presentation settings, I will open a browser and then showing the code in the browser. I think is the best way to show it. I didn't code in in Jupyter notebook for this project, but it's just for the show. So yeah, like you can see that I have used some async IO functions. So I have imported that. CSV, these are for loading in the data. There's some other like standard library things that we needed. And of course, we have import Discord. So there's discord.py, and there are some let me zoom in a little bit. Yeah. So there are other things that we need from Discord.py that could actually help us to build a board. So I would kind of walk through them, and you can see that well, this is just like we would do some logging because well, we want to keep a file just in case something happened, then we can at least retrieve that file because it's saved in a volume. Anyway, so I've set up some environment variables. So these store all the IDs for the channel. So if you read the documentation of Discord, the developer documentation, you will see that they have all these how to get a channel ID. So when you use Discord.py, you will need that because you will need to tell the bot which channel is supposed to be listening to the command, or which channel they should be posting the message for the user and things like that. So I set it in the environment variable, of course, because I don't want to, if I push this code to so it's just like a password, right? Don't want to push this channel ID to a to GitHub, because people can spam your channel if they get their ID. So treat it like your password. So I put it in an environment variable. And then if you have set the logging channel, then we'll do some logging there, which so parallel to our logging in the volume, we also have a channel that I can't show you because there's too much personal detail for the attendees. But we can also show like who got registered, or like is there like someone went into trouble of registering, then we can see. Only the organizer can see that though. Do we respond to the registration, or so I think this is like only respond to the registration channel. So if someone's triggering the command in some other channel, then it would just ignore it, because, well, maybe it's not meant to be a registration. So event name, you're a Python, and so this is just the message. So I won't go into the detail here. So you can see still I still have some same code here. So I'm kind of walking on thin ice here, because I have some same code that is mixing with async code, which I can tell you the danger of it in a bit. But but it's not. I think it's not the best practice, but sometimes you just have to do it this way, especially for me, who was a beginner. So you can see that there are some functions that write. These are just like helper function, because I don't want to have a chunk of code somewhere, but these are mainly sync code. So now we step into some async code. So the async function is just putting async in front of a function. I will go into some history about async in a bit in my slides, but I'll just give you a taste of how the code looks like for now. And you'll see that a typical async function, you will see await. So these are async code. If you see await and async, then, well, obviously this is async. So what happened is that this function will be pushed into an event loop, and then so it will just like got execute in parallel to other async function until it hit away. Then this will be called, and until it gets something back from away, we just pause here. So this is kind of a bot.event. This is a typical Discord.py thing. It lets you to create an event. Of course, an event is async. So on ready. So it's kind of, if you have some experience with JavaScript, then you would be familiar with all this. When there's an event, you trigger something. And also commands. So you can have commands of this register. So remember, if someone type exclamation mark register, then this command will be triggered. Okay, so it's just say that this will be a Discord bot command. So by the way, bot is the decorator that we created with the command, which is from discord.py. So in discord.py, it lets you create a bot, and then this bot will be a decorator that lets you, listen to events and also commands. So I won't go into detail here. Basically, this will be async. So so you see some await somewhere here, because all this stuff would be you have to await for this message to be deleted, this message to be sent. So it's just like tell this async function to wait, pause here. We need to get something back. So don't do things in parallel, otherwise it would just like execute everything all at once. So this is the main difference between sync and async. So this is a very straightforward board, I would say. I did, like I said, I've changed the purpose of the board, and make another board for the for my workshop, which is more complicated. I won't show you that code, because that code is a bit of a mess. And I came when I write that the new board, I came across a lot of horrible nightmare with mixing async and sync code, which I will tell you a bit later. So let's go back to the slide. So I have already give you a walkthrough of what's going on with the code. So let's continue the story about async. So yeah, so like I like telling stories, so I hope you're ready. So once upon a time, there are generators. Well, we all know and love generators, right? And then at some time, I don't know whether you have experienced this before. Actually, well, we all know that generators, we can generate an iterator, and then we can have the yield that is return, but it just posts the generator, the iterator. Yeah, I'm a bit confused with the term now. You can pause there, and then it will just yield, and then so next time when you just call it again, it will just continue from that, right? So when you call next, that will just continue from that, and then you would until you hit yield again, then you would have the next thing. So it's kind of like a return, but when you return from a normal function, then your function will stop, right? But for a generator, which generate an iterator, that it will just pause at you, give something back, and then when you call next, or then you will just continue from there. So another thing that generator has that you may not notice is that there's a send method. So a send method lets you send back something at the point at you. So you can see here in my generator, you have you will have you, and then with equals to something, you assign this u to something, because this u is getting something back. It's getting 5 in this case, because it is sending 5 back into the generator. So so when you yield it, then you would. So there's a two-way communication. So it's not just that you is providing something outside of the generator, that is getting something back as well. So this is crazy. This is like you can have something that is running, something that is running kind of independent of your code, because your code runs in sequence. But this little something, okay, we just call it little something. So this is something is sitting there. If you tell it to do something, you can call next, okay, do something. It can pause anywhere when you have a U. It can communicate to your main function or whatever. So wait a second, and then someone got an idea, right? Wait a second. Okay, so there's a step that is okay, so we can also simplify it using yield from. Then you can chain all of this, right? Then you can have one generator that is talking to another generator that is giving something back to this generator, and then you can chain it up. So this is not super duper important, but the most important thing is that using yield from, you can have a code that is a bit crazy, that you could just pass information back and forth. You can control when they execute, when it doesn't. So it makes people think about, well, this is just like other program language that you could do async, like JavaScript, that because there are all these because if you have experience with JavaScript, you have all these things that it's the functions is there, and it's event listener, so something trigger this event, it will execute. And well, we can do that in Python if we have this generator that could yield from and send things back. So, and then someone at Python 3.4, I don't know when, I have to look it up again, I forgot when is it, which year, but it's at Python 3.4. Then someone say how about we have a standard library that is called Async IO. So we can start having async in Python. First of all, we have an event loop, and then we have kind of this little thing that's sitting somewhere called coroutine. So yeah, that's the start of async. And then an event loop. So okay, I'm so new to all these things. So what is an event loop? So event loop is that it's a pool of things that you can put some coroutine in there, and it will just orchestrate. Okay, now it's your turn to do something, and now it's your turn to do something. It's like those so it's like a task manager, right? So you have so many tasks, for example, turn this circle green if the user click on the button. So this event loop will be like, okay, so now I got some response from the UI that the user clicked this button. So now button, please turn green. So it's orchestrating all this coroutine, and then to look for like which one go when. So when this is triggered, when there's a green light for this coroutine to execute. So what is a coroutine? So coroutine is kind of like a kind of something parallel to a routine. So a routine is something like your function, right? In your function, you have a bunch of code. So it's like a mini program that it execute one by one. So a coroutine is something like that is sitting there. So it's that little thing that's sitting there that actually can have multiple of them. And then you can they can execute all at once. They can pause at some point, and and then okay, I pause the first one, the second one go, and then pause the second one, the third one go, and then pause it, and the first one go again. For me, it's like a YouTube video, right? You can. So this is my habit. I open a lot of tabs. So you may already see it because I've already got some tabs on top there. I open lots of tabs. So sometimes I watch one video, and then I was like, wait a second. I remember something that I have to do some research on. So I pause this video. I do some research, right? Open another tab, do some research. Or even I open another video from YouTube and watch that a little bit to get the information that I need. And I can pause that one and go back to the original one. So it's kind of like that. So these are coroutines. So that's called Async IO. So you can see this is a little bit of code snippet of showing the a little bit of example. You can see that it's still in the standard library, so it's not in the in Python yet that you can just use it. But Async IO, the library, this standard library, provide a lot of useful thing that even if you like later if you use away and all this, like you will still use it a lot because it just provides so many useful things that you would use. But in the original version, like 3.4, the only way to write a coroutine is to call a function coroutine by adding a decorator. And then inside it would just like your generator, you have you from so technically speaking, this is a generator. Just make it a coroutine by putting a decorator there, and then after that you can put it in an event loop, and then it will run in parallel. So these two countdown will run in parallel. So you'll see that instead of if you run it one by one, it will be a countdown from A first. There's like A to A1, and then B. No, it would just like go at the same time. So you see that AB was like kind of happening all at once. It doesn't like go A then B. It's just like mix and match. So yeah, so well, this is async IO, but in the later version of Python, something changed, and people, of course, want to improve it a little bit. And people think, well, it's kind of a common thing, why we just make it a little bit more async, a little bit more like the other programming language, so we don't have to put a decorator there to make it a coroutine. So so this here comes async in a way. So this is much more like what we're using, in my code in my Discord board. So we have the await and async. So instead of like you have to call async IO and have a decorator, you can just put async in front of df, and then inside, instead of using you can use await. So yeah, so this is like how we go from a generator really to async. So this is kind of for me surprising that I have used generator before, but I didn't know that async is coming from there actually. So and generator can do so much crazy things. So I would say that this is a step into more in-depth Python. That for me, all this stuff, I'm still not 100% sure how things supposed to be done. I still look up on Stack Overflow a lot of the time, but I think this is one way more like step into a more advanced Python topic. So mixing sync code and async code. So this is what I say is like a nightmare. Like I said, I'm still like, this is my journey of like not knowing async to starting to use async. So I challenged myself. So after I built this very simple board that is used in EuroPython, I challenged myself, okay, I want something more sophisticated to use in my workshop to register people into my workshop. So by the way, it's the beginners data science workshop that I run with friends. Is totally for beginners and is free. We do it with a lot of conferences. We did it with PyCon UK before, PyCon Africa before, and it will be with PyData Global. So yeah, so it's something. It's like a Jungle Girl workshop that we do. We try to encourage people to use Python. So okay, back to the talk. So I read that board and I came into a lot of problems when I am mixing the code, the sync code and async code, because the library that I know and love, a lot of them are in sync, right? Like pandas, because I have to deal with some database pandas, and also for this time we have I use GSpread, which is like a library that lets you open a Google spreadsheet because we have stored all the participants' information there. So I want to synchronize, get in the data there. So it's a sync code, right? It's a sync library. So when I mix it with the Discord bot async, things just get crazy. Two of the problems that I encounter is that, can I call a sync function in async function? Something weird is going on there when I do it. Another thing is that, can I have an async for loop? Because when I change my code and then when I have to do something like a for loop, I can do it. Well, I can do it with a for loop if I'm writing sync code. But what if inside async code? What should I do? Like, because things are supposed to run in parallel. As you can see that countdown A and countdown B, the code before. If you run it, one by one, that's okay. That's what a for loop does. But if I do it in parallel, it's not a for loop, right? So, yeah. So let's see. So first of all, calling a sync function in async. So yeah, because the thing is like, okay, I want to, because when you do a async function, right? So like what we have seen before, you async df, function name, blah blah, and then there's some point you want it to pause and get some information from somewhere, right? Then you use await. But if you want to get some return, some information from a sync function, you kind of wait that function because that is a sync function. It's not async. You kind of wait there. Like, this is not a coroutine. You kind of wait. What should I do? Like, I was stuck there. So, well, Stack Overflow is my friend. So I would just like, if you are more experienced in this, I would give you a few seconds. If you already know how to solve it, you can kind of quickly type it in the chat if you want to. So show how smart you are. So you're much smarter than me. But if not, then I will show you the answer from Stack Overflow. That someone very smart answered that question. So any guesses? Okay, so I'll just try to find it in my tab. So let me make it bigger. So yeah, so here is when the async IO standard library becomes super useful. So this is the answer that I found. You can find it from the link. So yeah, you have to put it in a executor. So you can see that here, basically, if you put it in an executor, you can kind of wrap it like an async that you could await. So you can, you can put this block into its own thread. So it will become something like an, when you put it in the event loop, it's like kind of like a coroutine. So that's why async IO is still very useful, even though you think that, oh, I don't have to use that decorator for the coroutine anymore. Well, you still need it if you're doing something more fancy. So I will leave it to you to read it. The link is in the slides. I will share the slides at the end. So yeah. So this is one way to do it. The other thing is, the other challenge is an async for loop. So like I said, well, if I do things one by one, of course, it's a for loop, but what if I have something, that is is async. But I want it to kind of work like a for loop that it do things one by one. Yeah, it's going to be weird, right? So, but remember, async was actually from the generator, from the iterator. So you have you from. So this doesn't sound so crazy at all. It's still doable. You just have to pause it at the right time. So again, if you're a very smart person that you have used async before, you can let me know in the answer. It's a little bit challenge for you, but if not, I will just show you the answer. So here, yeah, so this is another answer from Stack Overflow. It's like Stack Overflow is my best friend. So here you can see that you can use as complete. So you can put it in a map and then use it as complete here, because like this person asked, like, okay, I have a bunch of URL, I want to do it just like a for loop because like I want to go through them one by one, but I can't async it. Or if you use async for loop, it's not the same as you wanted to do it one by one, because async for loop is making the for loop async. So it's opposite of what you want. So so what you want to do is to use async IO as complete, so you can await them one by one. So it's kind of like putting it back into that kind of generator format that is, using the things back one by one. So this is another thing that I was struggling, and I want to show you that you may have these problems, like, when you start exploring your async journey. So I think, yeah, this is the last slide of my slide deck. Sorry, this is the first time I give this talk, so it's not very polished. I should put another slide as the end, but I think I will just show the first slide, so in case you want to get my contact information. So yeah, I hope you enjoy this talk. I think I am a little bit like underrun. So if you have questions, if you want to chat with me, this is the time. And so the slides I would give you, actually you can see the link. And I would, I don't know whether I can put the link of the slides. Maybe what I would do is I would edit this slide and I would put it here so you could have it. And yeah, let me make it white so you can see. Yeah, oh, it's still not very clear because the little girl's shirt is white. Yeah, I hope you can see it, but if not, then we'll share it afterwards then. Yeah. So
Awesome. Thanks so much, Cheuk. Can we please give Cheuk a round of applause in the chat? Let me just copy and paste my clapping emoji. Oh, this is really interesting. I really like how you took like an actual like project and that's what you sort of used to learn async. Like I've been trying to learn async in theory and that's not really as fun. So can you sort of just like talk a little bit about the pros and cons about when to use async and like when to not use async in a project?
yeah, I think async is mainly used. Well, at least like so far from my experience, what I see is like for web application is like a lot of time you have to use async. For example, your Flask app, something like Discord. Discord is also kind of a web application, right? Because you're talking, to the server. It's just like, well, you have an app client, but still, it's kind of a kind of web-based application. So a lot of time you will be using it, or sometimes, I would say that it's more used like kind of a user interface thing, because like I said, it's like event loop is kind of like the thing that you write in JavaScript. You have this event that you got triggered, so things are not executing one by one. So yeah, so a lot of the time that you use async when you are dealing with an application that you're not expecting when you get something from a user, then you would have to write async. And sometimes you have multiple user, if it's a web application, then of course you will have to use async to execute things simultaneously. Yeah, so I would say that, yeah, like in my past life, which is data science, rarely use async, but if you're writing an application, you see async everywhere actually. So yeah.
Okay, and so can you talk a little bit like about how would you deploy this like particular bot? Like I'm sure a lot of folks have these types of projects they're working on. So like what's a good technique to get this out to the world?
Yeah, so for the Discord board, there's something that I meant to show you, but again, like, I really can't because I don't want to show too much of the credential or these like things. But what you need to do is that you just have to run it. So you just have to run that Python script, that bot.py that I show you, run that script. Of course, with Discord.py installed in your environment, run that script, and then it will, with the internet connection, you can even run it on your local computer. So if it has the internet connection, of course you have to set up your board. You have to kind of go through all this, like, the Discord API documentation. You have to register your board and stuff like that. But after that, you just need a secret. You need a secret from Discord, and then you put it, secretly put in an environment variable or whatever. If you're not sharing your code, you can put it in your code, but put it somewhere if you're sharing your code. So if you run that, once you run the Discord.py with that secret, and if you have an internet connection, then your bot actually would work. It would actually talk to the Discord server just like you're using the application yourself. Okay, so of course, if, like, for example, the EuroPython one, we won't run it locally. We'll deploy it and run it on a cloud instance that run Python script. So this is how you can deploy it. So actually it's very easy to deploy compared to other things, because if you have experience like other API, there's like auth-o and all this stuff. Oh my god, this is like super complicated. You have to do the the secret. You send a secret and then you got a key back and then another secret and all this stuff. No, Discord is kind of easy. You just need to get one secret token from the Discord board, and then you just need to invite the board from your server. So it's kind of like you have registered a special user that is a board. But of course, there are some security risks there. I've seen boards that has been hacked and create some spamming before in a very well-known server. So take your own risk. Is security-wise, it's not the best, but it's very easy to use and deploy. If it's something like a little fun board that you want to add to a small server that you only do that with your friend, you can do that. Yeah.
Awesome. And yeah, I think there was just some things in the news about the president's Twitter account getting hacked with a secure password. So yeah, security is definitely something that like is very important. And I love the advice you get off from the start. Like, always use environment variables. Can't stress that enough. Don't put anything in your repo. So we had a question come in from Sammy. He's wondering, did you have any difficulty debugging when you went to async?
Yes, I would say that it's a nightmare of debugging. This is another thing that I forgot to mention actually. Like when I write for the EuroPython bot is not too bad after a few testing. Actually, I tested with my own server first. Before I deploy it to the EuroPython server, I created a test server and I tested there by myself. And then actually there's some friends on that server and then they are like really be spammed by me. So sorry about that if my friends saw that. But yeah, like I tried on another server first and to make sure it works. So because it's a very, very simple app, so it's quite easy to find all the problems and do some testing. Of course, you can't do it the traditional way because things are not going, in sequence. So it's so difficult to find a bug. Actually, can I tell you that? Like we found actually there was a bug that is in the EuroPython bot that we only discovered in the last day of the conference. But it is a minor bug, so nobody really be affected by it. And then we discovered that thing like really at the end of the conference. So yeah, it's very, very difficult to debug. But still, in some kind of cases, you have to use async because your application works that way, and it's more straightforward to use async instead of otherwise. So yeah, I think it's just like when you're using async, I think it's part of your learning curve to learn how to debug it as well. Yeah. So
yeah, awesome. Yeah, it looks like that's it for the questions. But one thing I was wondering is, what's the most like interesting thing that you learned working on this bot? It doesn't have to be necessarily async, but like, what are some other skills that you got by working on Discord bots?
yeah, I think another skills. Well, yeah, the other skills that I learned, I think, is working with people, I guess, because like the thing is, I'm building an application that's used for everybody, and so it's kind of not exactly programming skills, but like when I first write the first version of it, and then I do a demo for my co-organizers, and then they will have comments about like what they want, what they don't want. Sometimes it's like it's not the code itself, it's not correct or whatever. It's like your design of wanting it to happen this way is it's not what they are expecting. It's not what they really want. So so you have to change your design. So this is something that I think is good for programmers to learn, that when you design an application, sometimes you have to take opinions because your user, your boss. So you have to really think about, okay, maybe I should adopt it to make my user feel happier.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great advice. The most important thing about writing software is writing software that people actually want to use. Also, before we let you go, do you have any words of wisdom, or advice, or just shout outs for our audience?
Well, I think that just keep on learning, have fun with Python, do some projects, the fun projects, because the most I learn about Python is when I challenge myself to a small project. So I think, that's the best way to learn Python. So give anything a try. If you want to give this Discord board a try, please write a Discord board.
Awesome. Great advice. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you later.
Yeah, bye.
There we go. And so that was Cheuk Ting Ho talking about building a Discord bot. It's really more about learning about asynchronous programming, which is a very great technique in Python, which lets you just do a lot more in a single process. Let me share my screen, and we're going to just wrap it up. Get the slide up. All right, so I just want to let everybody know about our upcoming events. We have our AlgoSig meeting coming up on Thursday, November 5th. We have our Dunder main meeting on Thursday, November 12th. And on Thursday, November 19th, we have two events. We're going to have a Python lunch break about portable PyPI servers. And there's also tentatively a project night scheduled for that night. So look forward to that. If you're looking with connecting with us, check out our Slack. If you go to that URL, send yourself an invite. You can join over 2,000 people talking about Python and various other things. We are on Twitter at Chicago Python. And if you have questions or are looking for more information, check out chippy.org. All of our information plus contact links are available on that website. So that's it for us for today's Chicago Python lunch break. Thanks so much for joining. My name is Ali Sivji, and I will see you all next time.